Have you ever wondered how Japan, a nation once so isolated from the rest of the world, transformed into a global powerhouse renowned for its cutting-edge technology, rich cultural heritage, and significant influence on the world stage? The journey of Japan from seclusion to openness is a story filled with intrigue, resilience, and a unique blend of tradition and modernity. In this video, we'll dive deep into the history of Japan's remarkable transformation. From the ancient times, through its period of isolation, and into the rapid modernization that made it the nation we know today. Japan's story begins over 40,000 years ago. The archipelago, now known as Japan, was first inhabited by settlers migrating from the Asian mainland. These early inhabitants brought with them crucial skills in agriculture and metalworking, which laid the groundwork for permanent settlements. Over time, these communities grew and evolved, eventually forming the earliest kingdoms that would shape the nation's future.
By the 3rd century AD, a significant portion of southern Japan had consolidated under a centralized power structure centered around the Yamato region. This early form of governance was ruled by a monarch known as the emperor, establishing a tradition of imperial rule that continues, albeit in a more symbolic form, to this day. As Japan developed, its culture and political structures were heavily influenced by its neighbors, particularly China and Korea. In 552 AD, Buddhism was introduced to Japan from Korea, marking the beginning of a profound cultural shift. Buddhism not only influenced religious practices but also brought with it new philosophies, art, and architecture, which left a lasting impact on Japanese society. In 645 AD, Japan implemented the Taika reforms, a series of sweeping changes inspired by Chinese models. These reforms sought to centralize the government, restructure the land ownership system, and strengthen the emperor's control over the country. The reforms marked a critical turning point in Japanese history, setting the stage for the development of a more structured and cohesive state. In 794 AD, the Japanese Emperor Kamu decided to establish a permanent capital in the city now known as Kyoto, marking the beginning of the Heian period. This era, which lasted nearly 400 years, is often regarded as Japan's golden age. During the Heian period, Japan saw a flourishing of arts, literature, and culture, with the creation of iconic works such as The Tale of Genji, often considered the world's first novel. However, the Heian period was also a time of increasing political complexity. The imperial court in Kyoto became increasingly focused on internal politics and courtly life, leading to the neglect of governance in the provinces. This weakening of central authority paved the way for the rise of powerful regional clans, who would come to play a dominant role in Japan's future. As the central government's power waned, regional warrior clans like the Taira and Minamoto began to assert their influence. These clans, backed by the military might of their samurai warriors, engaged in a series of conflicts that would reshape Japan's political landscape. The most significant of these conflicts was the Genpei War, 1180 to 1185, which pitted the Taira and Minamoto clans against each other in a struggle for control of the country. The Minamoto clan, led by Minamoto no Yoritomo, emerged victorious. In 1192, Yoritomo was granted the title of shogun by the emperor, making him the de facto ruler of Japan and marking the beginning of the Kamakura Shogunate. This event marked the start of nearly 700 years of military rule in Japan, a period during which the samurai class would dominate Japanese society. The 13th century brought one of the greatest threats Japan had ever faced, the Mongol Empire. Under the leadership of Kublai Khan, the Mongols sought to expand their empire by demanding Japan submit as a vassal state. When Japan refused, the Mongols launched 2 invasions, in 1274 and again in 1281. Both invasions were met with fierce resistance from the samurai, but what truly turned the tide were the powerful typhoons that struck during each invasion, destroying the Mongol fleets. These storms, which the Japanese called kamikaze, or divine winds, were seen as divine intervention, protecting Japan from conquest. The successful defense against the Mongols solidified the samurai's status as the defenders of Japan, but it also strained the resources of the Kamakura Shogunate, leading to internal unrest. The internal strife continued to grow, and by the 15th century, Japan had descended into the Sengoku period, also known as the Warring States period. This was a time of almost constant civil war, as powerful regional lords, known as daimyo, vied for control of the country. Alliances were made and broken, battles raged, and Japan was fractured into a patchwork of territories ruled by rival clans. Amidst this chaos, European traders and missionaries arrived in Japan in 1543, marking the first contact between Japan and the West. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to set foot in Japan, and they quickly established trade relations, introducing firearms and Christianity to the country. The arrival of European muskets had a profound impact on the ongoing conflicts, giving some daimyo a decisive advantage in battle. One of the most significant figures to emerge during this period was Oda Nobunaga, a daimyo who embraced the new European technology to unify much of Japan under his rule. Nobunaga was a ruthless and ambitious leader, but his efforts were cut short when he was betrayed and killed in 1582. Nobunaga's successor, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, completed the unification of Japan. Hideyoshi, a man of humble origins who rose through the ranks to become a samurai and eventually a ruler, was one of the most remarkable figures in Japanese history. Although he never took the title of shogun, Hideyoshi's rule marked the end of the Warring States period and the beginning of a new era of peace and stability. After Hideyoshi's death in 1598, a power struggle ensued, culminating in the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600. Tokugawa Ieyasu emerged as the victor, establishing the Tokugawa Shogunate, which would rule Japan for the next 250 years. The Tokugawa Shogunate brought about a period of prolonged peace, known as the Edo period, during which Japan adopted a policy of strict isolationism, or sakoku. Under sakoku, Japan effectively closed its borders to almost all foreign contact. Only a limited number of Dutch and Chinese traders were allowed to conduct business on the artificial island of Dejima in Nagasaki. This period of isolation allowed Japan to develop a unique culture, with advances in art, literature, and the economy. Ukiyo-e woodblock prints, kabuki theater, and haiku poetry all flourished during this time, and Japan's cities grew and prospered. Despite the peace and cultural flourishing of the Edo period, Japan's isolation could not last forever. By the mid-19th century, Western powers, particularly the United States, began to pressure Japan to open its borders to trade. In 1853, American Commodore Matthew Perry arrived in Edo Bay with a fleet of warships and demanded that Japan open its ports. Faced with the superior military technology of the West and the threat of colonization, the Tokugawa Shogunate had little choice but to comply. In 1854, Japan signed the Treaty of Kanagawa, ending over 2 centuries of isolation. This event marked the beginning of a period of rapid modernization and westernization that would transform Japan into a modern, industrialized nation. The Meiji Restoration of 1868 saw the emperor restored to power and the implementation of sweeping reforms that modernized Japan's economy, military, and society. The country quickly rose to become a major global power, participating in international diplomacy and conflict. Japan's transformation from a feudal society into a modern industrialized nation is one of the most remarkable stories in world history. Today, Japan is a nation of contrasts, where ancient traditions coexist with cutting-edge technology. It's a country where the old and new blend seamlessly, creating a unique culture that continues to fascinate people around the world. From the serene beauty of its temples and gardens to the bustling energy of its cities, Japan's history is a testament to the resilience and adaptability of its people. As we look back on Japan's journey from isolation to openness, we see a nation that has continually reinvented itself, drawing on its rich cultural heritage while embracing the challenges of the modern world. Japan's story is far from over, and its influence on global culture, technology, and politics will continue to grow in the years to come. And with that said, thanks for watching. And until next time.